Welcome back to Hollywood Bob's Redman Reaction. I'm going to try and shoot a little bit more from the hip this time so as to not be so static and monotone when I talk. But this time around, the second edition, I want to talk about Billy Napier, his coaching staff, and the transfer portal. I kind of believe that Florida fans are a little bit underwhelmed so far with the Gators and the use of the transfer portal. And really, I believe that's because of things Napier has said himself. First of all, I think it's fair to say that Napier is known as an aggressive recruiter. People uh, that look at him as a coach and what he's brought to the table in other places he's been, they see recruiter first. And I think that's fine given the coaches that have followed or preceded him at Florida and what people perceive the roster to need right now. Second of all, he said actually back at the end of March that they were going to continue to be aggressive in the portal. They had signed five guys at by that point that were there for the spring. Um, and on that day in the media, at the end of March, he said they were going to be a little bit more aggressive. Listen to what he said.
We live in a new era, right? I mean, it's certainly, this is a new way of operating in college football, right? We took over a program. We've had a number of things that have caused attrition on our team. I mean, we're literally going to give 5 walk-on scholarships this spring, right? So, and we have spots available, right? So, University of Florida, you can anticipate us being very aggressive in the portal this spring. We need players, and I think.
So, a couple of key quotes in that passage. He mentioned anticipate doing a lot of business in the portal. And he also said approaching double digits. So, after signing 5 before spring practice and getting those guys going, and then you make a statement that you're going to anticipate doing a lot of business, that tells everybody you're going to do a lot more business. And then approaching double digits can be taken either way. That we're looking at, doing a lot of business and approaching double digits. A lot. The way I took it was we could be looking at 10 or more new people added. But honestly, I don't think that's the way he did mean it. I don't think I'm the only one that believed that, by the way. I think there are others in the media that actually said it out loud as well. But either way, he brought in 5. Quarterback Jack Miller, running back Montrell Jones, offensive guard Osiris Torrance, offensive tackle Cameron Waits, and cornerback Jalen Kimber. Now, Montrell Jones is going to be one of the backs in the rotation. Could be the starter, could be number 2, could be number 3, whatever. He's going to play a lot of football in the fall. Osiris Torrance is likely going to be the starter at right guard. We know those two are going to play a lot of football. Jack Miller at quarterback, Cameron Waits are likely second teamers right now or at worst. And then Jalen Kimber is a guy that could end up starting. He's also a guy that's likely going to be in the 2 deep next year. Had a really good orange and blue game. So off the bat, the 5 guys they brought in were certainly certain roster improvements and guys that will help. So after bringing in 5 before the spring, they've added 2 more since the end of spring ball. Wide receiver Ricky Pearsall is certainly to be in the 2 deep and could be a starter in the slot position. Offensive tackle Jordan Herman is a JUCO prospect, also brought in via the portal, and at worst is a strong depth acquisition this year, and then hopefully be ready to play in years to come. Not bad additions there. So a really strong 7 to bring in so far. So look, they're at 7 right now. He mentioned double digits. They're 3 away. They aren't there yet, but that doesn't mean they can't get there.
I think most of your most of the players you could acquire at this point in time would be graduate transfers, right? They would be players that were already in the portal, you know. And, you know, I would say this, I think that there's junior college players that become available. And that's another way that you can acquire a player at this point in time. So, no, we're going to operate case-by-case basis. You know, if we find a player that think will make our team better, we'll pursue that player.
Going back to his statement back in March, I don't have an issue with Napier being aggressive, talking about the transfer portal. You know what? That's an honest statement at the time. He had every intention, knowing what he had on the field, he had every intention of going after players that he thought could better his roster, and those players just didn't show up. Whether they reached the 10 transfers or not, that was his intention. They made a run at Jermaine Lowell, the defensive tackle out of Arizona State. They didn't get him. You know, he's a big time player. They got Pearsall. They, you know, the other guy that may have made a difference or would have made a difference is the Pittsburgh wide receiver. They ended up at USC, but that seemed like a foregone conclusion before the kid even left Pittsburgh. So, you know, there are circumstances out of control. And the biggest circumstance right now in this is that I imagine he assumed there would be more defensive tackles in the transfer portal than there were. Again, as he mentioned in this tape, that you know, if there's a junior college or if there's a grad transfer available, that they will go after him if he thinks they can help the roster. If they don't think they can help the roster, and you don't have over the 85 right now, if you are at 85 or higher, then it makes no sense to take them. If you're under, I would take a flyer on a senior or a guy that's only got 1 year. It doesn't hurt you whatsoever. He's also talked about adding 5 scholarships to walk-ons. So, and he reiterated that last week as well. So, there's those numbers to deal with as well. Again, all of this goes back to he had some really aggressive talk at the end of March, and there were some assumptions made that there would be available bodies at the end of spring practice. And I think, personally, the new SEC rule has something to do with there not being a lot of available bodies. And not, you know, an SEC transfer had to transfer by signing day back in early February, or they would have to sit out a year. And so I think that's an issue. But I also think that there just wasn't many targets at all that he thought and that the staff thought could come in and make a difference on this roster.